Fantastic. Hello, everybody. Again, all find your seats. I'm joined on stage today by two Pierres, which makes my life a little easier, and also Arielle. And we're here to talk about a topic I'm really interested in, because I don't think there's any recommendation engine out there that has managed to crack my code, because I think I just listen to so many different songs that I confuse it. But if we can start from the left, Pierre, just a quick introduction. Who are you? What brings you to California? And your interest in music recommendation.
So good morning, I'm Pierre Niboyet. I'm with MusicTomorrow. We help labels get their music more discoverable on streaming platforms. So I guess that's where I'm here, talk about recommendation on those platforms and AI-driven recommendations. So that's the reason.
Amazing. Welcome. Arielle.
Yes, I'm Arielle. I've been working at Deezer for 5 years as a data scientist in the innovation division, and more specifically in the recommendation team. So our job is to create and maintain data and algorithm for the user features on the app, but also for internal tools to help other teams. And yeah, we use AI for that. Like we prefer to call it machine learning, but we've been doing this for 10 years. It's not new for us.
Amazing. Last but not least.
Yeah, I have a pretty different profile because I'm an artist and producer here in Liège, but I'm also a member of the board at SABAM, and so data is pretty important for CMOs now. It's a really big thing to think about. So I'm really interested to share views with people from recommendations and everything. So
amazing. So thank you. We're going to start with you, Arielle. Deezer's been involved with machine learning and AI for a very long time, before Gen AI was a buzzword. Do you mind sharing with everyone here just a little about what you do as Deezer? Of course, your own profile within that, but how do you use AI, and can you share some examples of how it's really been impactful?
Okay, so I will explain to you how the recommendation works. The recommendation system is based on the interaction of the user with our catalog, so what they listen to, what they add to their library, what they skip or ban, and so on. And with all this information, we can create similarities between items and then build a big musical space. So just imagine a multi-dimensional space, big space with a lot of points everywhere, and every point is an item. Points that are close to each other are similar items. And once we have this space, we can then guide our user through it with our algorithm. So this is one machine learning method called collaborative filtering. So this is one of the method we use. I can give you other examples. We use neural network for mood detection on tracks, also for the cold start problematic. We use NLP for the search engine. We also started to use LLM, of course, large language model. Maybe I don't want to spoil other questions, but yeah.
Sure. Do you see a direct correlation between recommendation and engagement?
We have two kinds of users at Deezer. They are the ones who like to stay in their comfort zone. I'm one of them. We just listen to our library and we use the search. But at the best, sometimes we test the recommendation features and we're impressed. But we don't really use it. So for this kind of user, there is no correlation. But we have a lot of users who love to discover, so their satisfaction depends on it, and thus their engagement, of course.
Okay. Perhaps I'll ask you, Pierre, so MusicTomorrow uses insights and really helps artists and managers to use those insights to try and get more traction. Are you seeing any correlation between your artists seeing insights in terms of their recommendations and their engagement with their content?
Well, basically, what we know for a fact is that the more engagement you have with your track, the more recommendation you're going to get. And the fact that you have really positive feedbacks on your track. You were talking about cold start. That's basically what we're trying to help you avoid, because cold start, like the worst thing that can happen to an artist that is releasing new music. So the engagement you get from the beginning with your track is going to basically dictate what's going to happen next. And that's why we try to help you point out the right crowd from the get-go. And so you can understand, even before release date, if you're connected to the right crowd, and if so, basically you will be more likely to be listened and recommended, to more people like that. And that's the whole idea behind that. So for us, discoverability is more a question of quality than quantity, because quantity comes after quality.
So that's a thing I wanted to follow up on. If, for example, you have a new artist, they've been discovered, are you finding that music listeners, or fans, depending on whether they're a fan yet, are they then moving further into that catalog for that artist? And in other words, is the discoverability because of a curated recommendation helping those artists become more discoverable and getting more engagement on their content?
Well, basically that's what you can do, because what we try to show through the insights we provide is basically what your algorithmic positioning looks like. How Spotify, Deezer, whatever the DSP, how do they understand your music? So you can look at it from an artist point of view, like at the artist level, or you can look at it at the track level. And so that's where in every catalog you'll have engines, track that will basically fuel the whole conception or most of the conception. But by understanding what, all the tracks from your catalog look the same way, you can basically connect those tracks together and basically try to get, your future fans or fan to become, and to, discover your catalog that way, rather than just saying, okay, I had 5 albums, do what you want with them.
Perhaps I'll ask you from an artist perspective, we'll get to SABAM in a moment, but do you use any of these insights, and are you looking at ways of how you can manipulate the algorithms on your end to be able to be more discoverable?
My profile is a bit different because I write a lot for other artists, so I try to write tracks for artists that are efficient, so that's kind of my job every day. But I see the artists that come to my studio really struggle and really think about this. How will I get discovered on the DSPs, since there are 100,000 tracks every day? And that's what I tell them also, is that, okay, you know that there are a lot of tracks uploaded every day, so what is going to make you special for the people, and to what's going to make the track that you're going to release different than others? What is it going to say from you? What is it going to say from your universe as an artist? And I think it's pretty important now to release tracks that really reflect what you want to do, and not try to fit the other artists or the other references that you have as an artist. You really have more than never before. You have to be really unique, I would say, and really release tracks that show who you are, because people are going to click on your track, and as we say, if they like it, they're going to go further, but if they don't like it, they're going to swipe. And I'm not saying that I love this kind of conception of music, but it's the reality, and that's what I try to tell artists, is that it's really important to play with that reality. You cannot change the world you live in and the world you do music in, so try to do with intelligence, without not doing what you like and telling who you are. You have to tell who you are, but try to see how you fit in this system. That's really important. Yeah.
So perhaps let me ask you, how do you feel about music recommendation being curated by AI?
Nice question. I always tend to see those kind of evolutions as opportunities. On the other hand, it's always scary for an artist to say, okay, it's machine that's going to choose if my track is recommended or not. So I would say that for now I don't have an advice, pretty precise advice on that. I'm just looking around and see how things go. And that's why I'm here too. It's really interesting to see how things are going in the background, because that's what we want to know. We just see that from the outside, and we're quite scared. And having people in front of us telling us how it works, it's really cool for that. But for now, I cannot say that I'm really excited. I cannot say that I'm not afraid. So yeah, it's a bit in the middle.
We had an accelerator the first 2 days of this week, and I mentioned at one point, I think AI is a little like the grief process. You know, mostly it's like denial, and then there's rage, and then there's bargaining, and we're really at that point of depression for some artists, I think, who just don't really know how to face it. And ultimately, I do believe you should reframe that conversation as like an evolution of intelligence rather than this is something we've lost. But I'm going to ask you a tricky question. Is there anything artists, songwriters, composers, etc., can do to become more discoverable? And I know that this might lead into a biased question, so we'll get there. But I'm curious to know what would be your advice to artists and creators out there? Because I think not understanding this world, understanding which data points are being used or how it works, is scary.
I think it's all about interaction. It's all about the interaction of the user with the catalog. So you need your track to be streamed and to be added to playlists. Maybe an advice would be maybe doing featurings, so that you then have a similar artist, and with the similarities you appear more often in the space.
Yeah. Have you seen anything that artists are doing well are helping them getting discovered? My English is failing me, sorry.
No worries. Well, basically, what's important to my mind is that if you're an artist, it's to be consistent from the things you do even before production, the A&R options you take for collaboration, those things, and how you translate the direction you're taking into metadata. We're going to talk about it later today, but how you translate that into metadata, how you translate that into marketing, into playlisting, and how all those things point in the same direction. Because if you manage to be consistent that way, well, basically, you're making it easier for the recommender system to understand what's your track, who you are to be recommended to. And, those are machines, so you need to make it easy for them, right? And if they don't get it, it will go nowhere. So that's all, and point.
It's a very good point. He's talking about metadata. You need your metadata to be very clean so that you're easily searchable, and it's very important because otherwise there are some duplicate artists and the catalog becomes a mess. So yes, clean metadata is really important.
Look, I'm not an artist, I can hardly play anything, but I can imagine that it's extremely scary. All I want to do is be creative, and I have to start thinking about things like metadata. So if you'd asked me 5 years ago what metadata was, I would not have known. So I guess my question is, for artists out there, or actually any creator for that matter, is there a playbook to understand this better where it becomes less scary? You can understand more about how, I don't want to use the word manipulate, that might be tricky. Do you think that Insights is the best route for them to do that? And are you finding that the artists themselves are engaging with that? Or are you finding that it's the people they surround themselves with?
Well, basically, where what we provide in terms of services is most useful and efficient is basically when artists are ready. You were talking about the denial stage, right? Some of them come to us saying, yeah, I know I need to do that, but I don't want to. And it doesn't go anywhere. When it starts like that, you know that it's not going to work. Some of them just arrive and tell us, okay, I know I need to fix this. I would love to understand how I can influence that. And the best situation to collaborate with an artist, with a manager, with a label, is basically when they already have an idea of where they want to go. Because if they have the vision, you just have to work with them to make sure they go where they want to go. And where it's way harder is when basically they look at you as if you were a magician or whatever, because we don't do magic. We help you enhance magic when you create, and that's how it works. So, yeah.
So let's talk money, because I'd like to know whether you're seeing any of your members, any of these recommendation engines, and the discoverability and the engagement actually translating into real revenue.
Well, that's also a great topic because, streaming for artists is not the main revenue, of course, as we know. And it's even worse than that. Streaming is considered for the artists and for our members as a way to be discovered, but it's not the way to make a living with your music, because I don't know the precise numbers, but the price of a stream, well, the revenue of a stream for the artist is really ridiculous. So that's another debate that we could have for 5 days, I think. But for them that really don't see their streaming or their sales as revenue anymore, because it's really nuts. So they want to use that to have people come at the concerts, to maybe a lot of them also become music influencers, or they have deals with brands and everything. So the whole revenue system for an artist has completely changed. And when I began my career, like in 2012, it was completely different, and it's only 12 years ago. But now I really see that we wanted to sell albums, and today they don't want to sell stream. Of course, they do want to be streamed, but it's not their priority now. The priority is to have streams and then build something from the streams.
So let's talk about volume of content. It's gone are the days of going to your local album store and speaking to the clerk and asking for the next recommendation of whatever albums dropped in the last month. Do you see curation being a way to help users on your platform manage the volume of content?
It will definitely be, it is, and it will be a challenge because we are really flooded by a flow of content. Like we receive, I think, hundreds of thousands tracks per day. This is actually why we introduced ACPS to remove, fraud and fraudulent artists and noise sounds also, like rain sound and fire sound. So to clean the catalog and to improve the whole experience.
So is the answer less tracks, or is Deezer and other platforms happy with the volume of content coming in?
Just only qualitative tracks. And also with AI-generated content coming, we will have to handle this too. So it's just about quality, but not less. But no, and then with the search engine improving every day, it will be always easier. We will also create a feature of generated playlists from a sentence to help the user get what they want easier. So they will be able to say, okay, I want a playlist with a rock from the 70s to workouts, but only with the female voices. And then the feature will be able to deliver what they want. So it will become easier also to request what they want. And for this, we need clean metadata. What I call metadata is, just the title, the good author, the good date. This is it.
That leads me to ask you the question, have you seen any examples of where a recommendation engine or an artist being discovered by a recommendation engine has had a really positive impact?
Well, yes, almost all the time. I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's just like it enhances what might happen in the end, right? So I guess, the way it's organized, it worked that way, right? And to come back on the question you were asking before, I guess now those recommender systems are the middlemen between the user and the artist. I used to work at Deezer like some time ago, and I was in charge of artist marketing, and we were working with the editorial team. But given that you have dozens of millions of tracks on the service and millions of users on the other end, how many people do you need to organize like a human curation at that level? That's impossible. So without those, recommender system, there couldn't be like personalized recommendation. It's impossible.
So do you see a feature in the future being a premium feature of human curated playlists, or are we stuck with AI models for the rest of our lives?
Why not hybrid? You can have like human curation, and you can have a touch of, algorithmic recommendation on top to make it maybe hybrid. I don't know.
I would think of my human curator as like a personal shopper. It would just be the best thing on planet Earth.
Exactly.
Let's talk about bias in algorithms. Is that something that any of you are particularly concerned about? Is it something that you can shed some light on how Deezer manages that?
Of course. I think I have three things about it. First, we have a whole feature about discovery to take the user out of their comfort zone, their bubble. It's very accessible. It's on the homepage. We just recommend artists that the user doesn't know, but we know they will like, of course. First thing. Second, we monitor everything. Our main KPI is what we call the collect. So collect means you add to favorite or you add to playlist. And if you collect a track, it means it wasn't collected before. So in the main case, it's discovery. So our main KPI is discovery. It could have been the listening time, but we chose it to be the discovery. So it's something really important for us. And we also monitor what we call the fairness. So that is to say, we make sure that every side of the user taste is represented in the space, is covered, like we do space coverage actually, even when it's niche. We also make sure that when a population is overrepresented, it doesn't overwrite the others. So for example, at Deezer, we have a big part of our users who listen to rap music. But of course, our algorithm don't learn only on this genre. Same thing for ages. We don't have a flat ages distribution, so we make sure no population overrides the others. And last thing, funny thing, some independent researchers conducted an academic research using our data. We provided it to them. And it turns out we are pretty good on discovery. What they found out is there is a big correlation between a big use of recommendation features and the big diversity in the listening habits and in the library. So of course it's just a correlation, it's not causality, but still it shows that we don't lock the user in its bubble, on the contrary.
Amazing. Pierre, I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but Pierre, I'd be curious to know, are you seeing similarities in how the streaming services are treating recommendation, or is there a large disparity and therefore artists now have to start thinking about, I have to deal with Deezer in this following way and with Spotify in another, etc. Are you seeing there's a cliff between those?
I guess that, without revealing anything, I get they have approaches that can be compared, I would say. And globally the approach remains the same basically because the end game is the same, right? It's finding the right track for the right user. So I guess they won't, reinvent the wheel every time. Where there's a layer of complexity, at least for us, is when you deal with multi-format. We're trying to work on YouTube right now. We search on YouTube. Basically, it's another animal, right? That just audio, what we have with Deezer, with Spotify. That adds a layer of complexity. But from what I understand, and I'm sure there are things I don't get about how you operate, guys, the approach is the same. And I think from what artists, labels have to know about that, I think the approach remains the same. And that, there's no very big difference that they need to know about, to my mind.
Are you seeing any education being done from the label side, or are you, from a SABAM perspective, doing any education to help artists navigate this territory, understand the fact that clean metadata is important, etc.?
Yeah, we try to have workshops on that matter because it's really important for the artists, and we really I see it with my SABAM hat and with my producer's hat that artists are a bit lost in this whole world that is changing every day, and they don't really get. We're still in a mix of the old system and the new system when it comes to publishers, labels. Do I need a label? This question comes to me like every day. Do you think I need a label? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe just all questions that artists have now are not easily answerable. I don't know if it's a word, but it's really hard to answer to them about that because the mixity of the landscape in the music has really changed. So we try really to inform them without saying, okay, that's the solution, but just more of an global information so that they understand in what game they are playing, and then they make their choices. But it's easier to make choices when you know all the actors, when you know how the streaming system works, when you know what things are happening technically and recommendations and everything. So the information that we can give them, we try to give them because it's really important. But they have to answer the question on their own, I think, because the reality of each artist is different. So, yeah.
Is there a fear that AI-generated music is going to start subsuming the traditional artists?
I see it even for me as an artist myself and as a music creator. I used to think that I really wanted to enhance my music to screen business, and I really think that the music to screen business, I mean, is gonna kind of die for a lot of people, because if an advertising company wants to have a track for his advertising, and it can have it like in 30 seconds using AI. So I don't know why they would call someone to do it instead. It's a bit sad, but I mean, it's the reality, and I really think that for a lot of people that were creating music for the screen, it's going to be really hard to make a living from that from now on. But that made me think of what you were saying earlier, is that I even see that the development of AI-generated music could, I don't know if you're working on that now in the DSP world, but if you type, you said you could type, okay, I want workout music sung by female, but I mean, it could even be generated live. Is that something you're working on? Because that could be...
No, yeah, we're working on this kind of feature, and about the fact that we could recommend generated music. If the users interacted with it, yes, there is a big probability. But there could be a choice from us. It would be a product choice that we exclude these kinds of tracks from recommendation. For the moment, there is no model that can predict if a track has been generated by AI. But when we manage to do this, maybe we will choose to exclude it from Reco.
Is there a risk that recommendation engines might start recommending more AI-generated music?
If users interacted with it a lot, yes. And if we don't exclude it from recommendation, yes.
Are you seeing any, I mean, you guys deal with data all the time, but from an insights perspective, are you seeing any specific trends that are popping up with regards to AI-generated music? And are your artists using any of them, or any of these tools? And are they using the insights you have to help them generate music?
Honestly, not that much. Not that much, since, I mean, we're working with artists, so basically, I mean, they can work with AI as assistant, right? But only, I mean, 100% AI-generated music is basically not what we're working on. I mean, there are some companies who approached us to work on that, but it didn't went any further. Okay. I mean, for the moment, at least. So, and I really don't know about that, honestly.
Fair enough.
I really don't.
And on your end, some of the tactics that you're seeing people deploy, is there anything that you're finding interesting in that data space? So in other words, how people are using the insights, for example, that Pierre's company is putting together. Are you seeing any of that come to fruition and actually help these artists do better? And are you finding artists reach out to you and ask you whether they can assist with curation? I'm curious about that human-in-the-loop partnership perspective.
I'm not sure about the question, I'm sorry. We're not talking about AI-generated music anymore?
Not AI-generated music, beg your pardon, I'm talking about the human-in-the-loop. So obviously Pierre's company has all these insights. Artists are starting to use that. I know you used to work together at Deezer, but...
but even right now we work, even the creator of MusicTomorrow was a former Deezer.
Yeah. I always forget there's that connection. It seems like everybody knows one another.
Judy used to be in charge of algorithmic recommendation.
Of recommendation, yes.
Yeah, at Deezer, so...
Of course.
So yeah, we work together. but I don't think I can talk about it actually.
That's okay. You don't have to. Is there anything that concerns you that you're worried about where the future's going that we might not know about in terms of recommendation engines?
I might have one thing. That's what I don't understand is why the streaming platforms are not providing to artists, labels, a very granular explanation of what they use in terms of genre. It used to be the case with Every Noise at Once. Now it's stopped, so I don't know if it's somebody going to pick that up again. But I think that it could be. I mean, we provide that kind of information, but it would be very helpful if there were a very comprehensive list of genre that is used for. I mean, if there's not standardization for all DSPs, at least to have a very shareable list of genre they use, because you were talking about clean metadata, but it begins understanding where you can go, right? And what are the options.
And actually, we don't really put words on the tracks. Like we don't. We have tags, of course, but we prefer to localize the track in the space. We don't really put words, so we don't really need the genre. So that's why we don't really communicate on this, because.
But how do you locate it in the space? How do you say this track is there?
Thanks to the similarity.
Okay.
Yeah. We just regroup tracks that are similar together in the space, and tracks that are not similar are far away from each other.
And it's similar from the point of the metadatas? Or
No. From the interaction perspective. So if they are listened one after the other in the same session, or if they are in a lot of playlists together, then they are similar. So we actually use the work of the user to create our space. So it's not only machine, like computer.
Consumption is key when it comes to recommendation. But what I mean that first, to help artists and labels navigate that and make the first step towards understanding how they can work to train algorithms and influence them to get their music recommended to the right crowd. I think the first step is sharing that granular list of genre. And honestly, the people who were working with Every Noise at Once, for instance, made a lot of sense of what they were seeing and what they were finding in that on that service.
But I'm not sure there should be an exhaustive list. Like if there is a genre popping out, it's cool. It's also cool if it's not in the list. Like.
So perhaps what I'm hearing you say is there's an argument to be made that if artists and creators knew what streaming services or the models themselves from a recommendation perspective was looking for from a data aspect, that you'd be able to help them train their models even better?
I mean, for instance, we know that, I don't know if you do that, guys, but we know that Spotify is going to look at what people are saying about your music online before release date, right? They just want to double check that they didn't get it wrong, right? And it's like when you get new music coming in, it's like solving an investigation, right? And all the things that come from metadata to Spotify for artist speech to what's written in your bio to all the things are clues that, help solve the investigation before release, because then the track is out and consumption is going to be everything, and that's going to be, the end of it, right? But before that, solving an investigation can fast track your success, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's a very good way to say, okay, if you say that, my track is indie poptimism, it doesn't make any sense, but that's what they use. I mean, those are crazy words they use to describe music, right? But the question is not what is indie poptimism. If they use that as keywords, you should use that as keyword as well. And it's going to be easier for you if you use the same word throughout, all the options you have, like in your metadata, in your pitch, in your bio, and online, in your press releases, right? And so if you manage to give them, the keyword you use, basically you're going to feed the beast with the very word, and that's, that helps.
help them understand what your users are looking for, your listeners are looking for. We're seeing that a lot in retail. It's an example I can draw from, but where there used to be keyword search, you now want to say, I'm going to an Aladdin-themed party. And instead of you having to think about, glitter eyeshadow and purple pants and gold hair ties, it will essentially say to you that we're going to make the recommendation for these are the things that you should be buying, rather than you having to think of every single one as a keyword. So that does beg the question, how do you balance the preferences of a user with the actual recommendation engine? So by that I mean there's obviously always going to be a common denominator, and yet actually if it's about discovery, how do we ensure that these recommendations become more and more hyper-personalized and actually take my preferences as a listener into consideration? I don't want you recommending a really happy song when I'm having a bad day.
That's a good question. We have a lot of different features. We ask the user to request explicitly what they want by clicking on the right feature. They have a lot of choice. It's very accessible. We have thematics, track lists, fully personalized, so you will not have the same as mine. You will be able to click on it. And that's your example is funny, like you were mentioning, if you're sad, how do you do? We have a very cool feature called Flow, which is a fully personalized and automated radio that adapts in real time with your feedback. And when you use Flow, you can also say, right now I'm sad, just give me sad tracks. So there is
in the future, it will be able to pick up your heart rate, your breathing, your stress levels, and hopefully start adapting accordingly.
We don't predict that the user is sad. We need the user to tell us by clicking on it.
Of course. My buzzer went off on my arm, so I think that we're at the time of having to open the floor for some questions. Are there any out there? Oh, lots of hands. Could we get a mic in the audience, please? I'll let you guys fight it out for who put your hand up first.
Hello there. Thanks for the panel. Very insightful. With the sort of widespread belief that the high growth phase in streaming is coming to an end, certainly in more mature markets where streaming's been around for quite a while. The focus of those services, therefore, turns much more assiduously to customer retention versus acquisition. And with that, a desire to improve recommendation and other algorithmic playback that's going to encourage longer sessions and, ultimately drive retention. In a doomsday scenario, that means we just end up playing people more and more Queen and ABBA and other, big catalogue, and less new music, because new music's very jarring to the listening experience, and the listening session has a higher probability of ending at that point. What do the panel think about that doomsday scenario? Is it far-fetched or realistic?
Who'd like to take that? Arielle?
Yes. Our philosophy at Deezer is to always let the user have his own choices, so they can listen to recommendation, go to their favorite, go to the editor playlist, go to the search. They have the choice, so they are not locked in algorithms. And about listening to new tracks, we also have a whole feature about it with only new release, and it works really well. So no, I don't see a world where we don't listen to new tracks anymore.
Next.
Hi, thank you for this panel. So I'm Agnès, I work with Deezer, so I'm a bit biased. I have a comment, a precision, and a question. So first comment, it's the first panel of Arielle, and she's done really great, I think you all agree. With tricky questions. Little precision, I think one thing that's wonderful, not just promoting Deezer, but with maybe other streaming services, but for sure Deezer, is that we work with editors, right? We also have experts that work very closely with the AI experts. I say AI, which I shouldn't, but experts like Arielle. So that's also a key element to your point as well. And now I have a tricky question as well. I mean, we're talking about generative AI and how it's going to, pack all the catalogs, etc. And I think you did a really great precision on the key element being metadata, clarity, whether it's for the recommendation of today or tomorrow. Is there good metadata with generated AI? Is it better than human-made music? I don't know if, do we know?
I don't know.
Does anyone here know? Is it better?
An AI composer is never stoned or drunk or misspelling anything.
Write drunk, edit sober.
Thank you very much. I'm Willy. I work at the European Commission and very much concerned with discoverability in our institution. Arielle, you mentioned the fact that when we rely more on recommendation systems, there is a surge in diversity, but at the same time, I'm a bit confused because you rely a bit more on collaborative filtering. So I'm guessing when we have diversity in the tracks that are being recommended, it's going to be the same genre, the same language. So I guess my question is the following: do you foster diversity? Is it an objective? And if so, how do you do it?
The user has plenty of sides in his taste, so it's not always the same genre. Of course, we want to cover only the genre they like, so that they're more engaged. So in this, yes, it's but still they have plenty of genres, so it's not only the same genre. I don't know if I answered the question. Maybe you. Okay.
Anybody else before we wrap up? I know we're between you and a break. Like two more, one in the front and one to the side.
Hi, yeah, thanks for the panel. It's very interesting. I have a question more on the kind of UGC side, because Deezer and also Spotify and everyone else, they use collaborative filtering, meaning that at the very end they use like the work of the users to superpower their recommendations. But a few years ago, there was kind of a shift in all DSPs that the search is very, very kind of biased towards the DSP's own playlists. And I'm not talking about the editorial ones, because those are nice playlists. They're like human curated and it's nice to listen to, but also the algorithmic one. So my question in general, not to Deezer specifically, just because now Deezer is on stage, but it's like, what's your take on for example, not promoting more valuable UGC? Because we see, for example, for new genres, there's a lot of UGC playlists that are very
I'm sorry,
popular.
I don't know what is UGC.
User-generated. So not editorial and not algorithmic. So
okay.
from me, for example, a curator,
okay.
or from someone else, yeah.
Sometimes we push such playlists, yes, for some marketing campaigns. Like for the Pride Month, we push some UGC, as you said, some funny ones with funny covers on it. It might be something we do more regularly. It's a product choice, but we can, of course, we can also place these items in our space, so it's very easy to push to the right user after.
One more to my right.
Thank you. Thanks for your insights. I was wondering you talked about new features where users can use natural language prompts to generate playlists, right? Do you feel that these kind of features will bring the need for new metadata and new types of tagging to enrich the results and provide better results compared to what we've been used to in the past 10 to 15 years?
I'm nodding because I agree with the question. It's a question I would have to, but I'm pretty sure that metadata is going to be at the center of the discovery, of course, as we said, and that metadata is going to be more complex than ever. And the more you can provide the metadata, the more you can be discovered. So, at some point, we will need to have to fill more and more metadata, I would say.
But as Anne said, with the help of the editor works, we can, like the label, of course, they add their own tags on some tracks, and then by comparing the audio signals with other tracks that are not labeled, we can actually predict the mood, the genre. So maybe it would be.
But going beyond that, like indicating the instruments that are being used in the track, or I imagine when the more you get prompts, the better we will understand how people are searching for music, what they are really looking forward to, and will you then communicate to the artist and the labels the type of tags that should be implemented in their songs?
I think that speaks to Pierre's question around, is there more transparency and what would that look like? As an artist, do I have the ability to tag my own track with a specific emotion, for example? Mm-hmm. And if I tag it with that emotion, is it going to be taken seriously, or am I going to land up on a playlist that perhaps, artistically doesn't agree with what I want to do? And I think that transparency is perhaps something that should just become
We actually have what we call a pitching tool when you can put all these elements about your tracks. We don't take everything into account. Like, for example, the genre. Like, people used to say, it's pop, it's pop, it's pop, because pop was the more popular. So we don't really take it into consideration anymore. But still, you can write it. And you can write the instruments and everything.
And is that actually better to let human tag or to just use algorithms?
No, because they lie.
Yeah. So it's better to rely on the algorithm that will always tag the same. Yeah.
Our experts don't lie, and they educate, they train our algorithm, so we trust them.
Better.
Any more questions? No? Oh, one more. Oh, sorry.
One last one? Okay.
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm working in the live industry, and we always speak about recommendation, how to keep the people inside Deezer or Spotify or anything, but all this recommendation has got a big impact on the way the people go to festivals or live shows. And when I go to this kind of conference, nobody never talk about it. So the question is maybe why?
Actually, we recommend concerts. There is a whole feature, again, I am always talking about features, but we can recommend concerts on the app.
No, but there's a very big impact how the audience is listening, discovering new music, and how the audience is now attending festivals. For instance, if you put a small act on your Instagram account, then your reach get down. So the marketing team say, no, we're gonna just speak about the biggest artist. And there is a lot of algorithm BAs now that makes really difficult to book festivals, to organize shows. And do you work on those subjects?
This is again one issue where the collaboration with the experts is really important. I think only editors can help us dealing with this, as our algorithm just see the metrics going down and up. So, but with human help, it will be okay.
And also, I would add that what we see that DSPs are not like closed ecosystem. What happened outside has a huge influence. What happened then on DSPs and the recommendation. I mean, we monitor a lot, the listening sessions that users are doing to understand why, artists are recommended to those guys, etc., etc. But those listening sessions are not only coming from genre. We talked a lot about genre, but they're also coming from festival, as you were saying. I mean, you attend a festival, you will maybe listen to all the artists that are, on the list for that festival, but also TV shows. We were talking about TikTok yesterday. So TikTok trends will have a huge impact of what's going to happen then in the DSP. So I guess those are not closed ecosystem. So it's more a question of how can you influence discoverability inside Deezer, and where is that coming from? And for your question, how can you make sure that basically the artists that you want to program are going to be more discoverable maybe later on? That may be another way to take the issue.
And perhaps back to the partnerships conversation, what are the types of partnerships you could strike up with the DSPs to understand how you can perhaps use that as a promotion tool for your own festivals, which I'm sure you're doing. But I do think we're out of time. I'm getting the evil eye.
Unfortunately, time is over, in fact, so thank you very much for this very interesting and added value content. Thank you also for your question. It's not time for a short break. I think we will shorten it around 15 minutes only, and I see you later. Thank you.